Let's give a few cheers to Stoker's opponent, Tiger Nelson. Although he's billed here and in many of his early films as Hal Fieberling, the actor's name is Hal Baylor, and like Robert Ryan, he could actually fight, having compiled an amateur record of 52-5 and a 15-8 ledger as a pro. Now, Baylor would also compile a resume of almost 200 films and TV shows running into the late 70s. He and Robert Ryan really created something special in their short but epic battle in this film.
You can still punch, Stoke. I told you could take him.
There were actually two boxing films being made at the same time in Hollywood called The Setup. The other one was produced by Stanley Kramer and was based on a short story by Ring Lardner called Champion, the title under which it was released after Howard Hughes rushed this film into theaters first, a strategy that ended up backfiring on the RKO boss. Champion and its star Kirk Douglas received a huge marketing push from United Artists, and the film went on to be a big box office hit, while The Setup barely earned back its budget, despite its critical acclaim. The Setup was nominated for the prestigious Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, where it won awards for its direction and cinematography. But it must have rankled Robert Ryan to see Kirk Douglas receive an Oscar nomination that year for his flashy but somewhat less convincing portrayal of arrogant boxer Midge Kelly in Champion, which, coincidentally, was directed by Robert Wise's friend and one-time B-Unit stablemate at RKO, Mark Robeson. Now, this week's viewer question comes from Kim Ray, who wants to know how people of color were portrayed in film noir. Were they still mainly maids and porters, or did their roles begin to enlarge in these films? Well, considering that the protagonist in this story was changed from black to white to make the film palatable to the widest audience, it's interesting to note that there were several noir films that featured strong roles for African Americans. I'm specifically thinking of two John Garfield movies, Body and Soul and The Breaking Point, which feature great parts for Canada Lee and Juano Hernandez, respectively. Hernandez is also incredible in the 1949 film version of William Faulkner's Intruder in the Dust, which could be considered a detective story, if not a full-fledged noir. No Way Out, a 1950 film from 20th Century Fox, is a fiery take on racism that gave Sidney Poitier his first starring role. James Edwards, who we just saw in his first film, would later reappear as the only upstanding citizen in Stanley Kubrick's 1956 classic, The Killing. And by 1959, Harry Belafonte was not only the star, but the producer of the exceptional heist film Odds Against Tomorrow, choosing Robert Ryan to co-star and Robert Wise to direct. Granted, that's a small sampling, but there is a little something to the notion that minorities got, if not a fair shake, maybe a slightly more equal one in film noir. Now, next week on Noir Alley, we visit a place that makes a tank town fight club feel like heaven. We're being sent up the river to Westgate Penitentiary, where we will experience the most violent movie of Hollywood's golden age. Until then, keep punching.